Hello everyone, this is Anshika Malik, and on behalf of the GeoStrata, we welcome you all to this extremely important panel discussion on the theme Bullets and Borders, Tale of Geopolitics and Terror in the Kashmir Valley, wherein we will dive into a crucial discussion about the recent Pahalgam terror attack to assess the complex security dynamics in the Indian Union territory of Jammu and Kashmir. As we come together to organize this panel discussion, our hearts are with those impacted by the recent terror attack in Pahalgam. We stand in solidarity, honoring the resilience and unyielding spirit of India. To comprehend this further, we welcome Dr. Ashok Pathak, an army veteran and a PhD in information warfare. We also welcome Dr. Dalbir Ehlawat, senior lecturer at School of International Studies, Macquarie University. Further, we are also delighted to have Dr. Siddiq Wahid, Distinguished Professor, Center for Himalayan Studies at Shiv Nada University. To make this more enriching, we welcome Dr. Priyanka Singh, Associate Fellow at Manohar Parrikar Institute for Defense Studies and Analysis. And it's our pleasure to welcome Dr. Dhruba Jyoti Bhattacharjee, Research Fellow at the Indian Council of World Affairs. Thank you everyone for joining us. Let us now proceed with the discussion. But before we go ahead with the questions, we would want you to give your opening remarks, maybe with regards to your opinion or anything recent which has happened, like the MHA guidelines about the mock drills. We can start with Brigadier Dr. Ashok Pathak, sir. Please go ahead.
Firstly, thank you very much for having me on this particular event. And I'm delighted that I'm in company of some very great intellectuals, and I'm very happy that people from the non-military background also taking a lot of interest in issues of national security. This time, Pahalgam happened, and this could have passed as another incident because I was going through the South Asia portal for terrorism, and in 2025 we got 28 casualties, civilian casualties I'm talking about. We had such casualties earlier also, but we didn't let it pass because the way it was conducted, and maybe India wanted to write or rewrite the narrative in her geopolitical posturing. Uh, and that's what we see for the last 2 weeks from 22nd of April onwards. And I'm sure we'll have a fruitful discussion on this issue. This is what my opening thoughts are about Pahalgam and India's reaction.
Sure, sir. We're looking forward to hear more from you. For the opening remarks, I would now invite Dr. Dalbir Ehlawat. Please go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much for this opportunity. I think your topic is very timely, bullets and borders. So in the wake of Pahalgam attack, I think this is a reminder for India that for a rising country, which is going to be number 3 economic power in the world, there are certain issues that need to be addressed. And I think this is very timely that some long-term policy posture should be initiated, and not only initiated but acted also. And I think this is a great platform where we can share and discuss some of the long-term strategies. Thank you.
Definitely, sir. We're looking forward to that. Moving forward, Dr. Wahid, if you could please share your insights.
Thank you. And thank you also likewise for inviting me along with a lot of others. And I don't know anybody on the panel, but certainly qualified individuals. I look forward to the discussion. As you know, I am based in Kashmir for 50% of my time. And I look forward to the discussion. Vis-a-vis Pahalgam as such, Actually, I should also say that I'm impressed by the degree of organization, and you're sending the questions in advance and so forth. That gives you a very good framework, to prepare for it. So that it has allowed me concentrate. I see also that you've identified me more or less as a Ladakhi, because that's exactly what I am, or who I am. But have been living in Kashmir, of course, almost all my life, apart from when I went out for my studies. So with that, I look forward to the discussion. Thank you.
Likewise, sir, we would really want you to bring in all the Kashmir angle in your thoughts. Moving forward, Dr. Priyanka, if you could please go ahead and give your opening remarks.
So, thank you for having me and for making me a part of this very distinguished panel. And I think what I would like to say is that what you've seen in the last 2 weeks, I think post-Pahalgam, I think it's a very calibrated sort of a response from the Indian government. And it has been always like that because we've had like recent attacks like the Uri and the Pulwama attack. And we have seen it, it's a very calibrated, not a knee-jerk sort of a response that we have seen to these terrorist attacks. And why I'm saying so, that because it's not that we were really unprepared. There was a plan A. There was a plan A for a set of measures that came immediately after the attack. And then we have a plan B, the second set of measures, which were kind of, which we saw, I think, being unleashed a couple of days ago. So what I think Pakistanis would like us to do is to kind of really get into some kind of a knee-jerk reaction, which we have not done. And instead, we are showing that it's a very well thought out strategy, and we will do whatever we deem suitable at the right moment.
Definitely, ma'am. I think moving forward, we are so glad that we'll hear more about your ideas. Dr. Bhattacharjee, if you could please share in your opening remarks.
Thank you for inviting me to this esteemed panel and a very timely discussion on borders and bullets. As my previous panelists have mentioned, that this is a very timely discussion, and as we can see that the nature of terrorist attacks that has been taking place in Kashmir for the last few years, and the present terrorist attack that took place in Pahalgam has a distinct mark. The amount of planning that has went into it, the manner in which they have evaded being caught for more than around 12 days. So the nature and the meaning, the manner in which they have only targeted civilians, that is also something which is noteworthy and worrisome. So I would look forward to listening to all the panelists as well as share my views on that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your thoughts. And with that, we can start with the Q&A now. So my first question will be directed to Dr. Pathak. Sir, given your expertise in information warfare, how do you think the terror attacks in Kashmir, including the latest incident, have leveraged by various non-state actors to shape some sort of a public perception or strategic narratives? So, what role do you think that information operations play in influencing the discourse and also the response to such events?
First of all, I must clarify what information warfare encompasses, because generally we consider this as social media or the media narrative that is set in. I've written a book on this, India Strategies for Information Warfare and Cyber Deterrence. As a matter of fact, the information warfare contains the entire spectrum of conflict, starting from the non-military and going to the military spectrum. It is a net war which continuously goes on, social media, other media, print media, where you set a narrative to position yourself in the world ladder. That's one. Political warfare, you want to have similar type or selected type of political ideologies in the targeted countries. That is political warfare. Then is the net war, which is targeted against a country to change their perception about their threat, and then achieve your national objectives without fighting. So these are all non-military domains. Then comes the military domain, where the physical destruction part, or the kinetic as these things are called. Of course, everything is kinetic in military. When bullets start firing, it is not potential energy, it is kinetic energy. Likewise, everything else. So the physical destruction has electronic warfare, cyber warfare, and the movement of guns and missile and aircraft that all you see. And the lastly is the international affairs, where you want to mobilize international narrative in your favor. So everything is part of information warfare, which set you want to use at what time and what combination depends on the geopolitical understanding of a nation about itself and about the world. The aim of information warfare is to so achieve the national objective without fighting. I'm underlining the word without fighting, by using non-military measures like your economic strength, your international standing, your geopolitical posturing, your net war, uh, and if and we're using the knowledge domain here, your technology and knowledge, where young students and everybody's whole of a nation approach is there. If that fails, then we start the conflict ladder in the military domain, escalating to a level as per our choice. Here, the start and stop of war is very important, because military in ideally should be used for a very short time window. Its start point and conflict termination should be very well thought of in view of the overall national objective. You shouldn't go beyond that, and you should live short of that, because if you live short of that, you will fight another war very soon. If you go beyond, then you are asking for a lot of trouble, and that's what Germany faced in Second World War, and some other countries like Pakistan is facing now. This is as far as the information warfare is concerned. In the context of Pahalgam incident, uh, it was another incident. Incidentally, there's nothing new. Bigger incidents have happened. uh, they have killed civilians. They have killed civilians earlier also. They killed 28 now. They killed 100 earlier also. But this time around, whether you can say that the way they were killed, identifying their religion, etc., or we decided to put a stop to it. We wanted to achieve a bigger national goal in line with the national vision. Now, vision and goals are slightly different. Our national vision will never change. 2047, what we want to achieve, the national vision. Now, in that national vision, what goals you want to achieve, that is a bar which we have raised. We want to say to rest of the world that not again. It can't be 2611 and after Kargil and then Parakram and 2611. It can't go on. It must stop. Now, what are the military goals? We will discuss it later on as we go by in the discussion. Political and economical actions, you all know, we already taken. So this is a long haul case where whole of a nation approach is going to be adopted. Political will and economic actions you already see in place. Military is all set, and this is the right time where we rewrite our geopolitical standing in the world order. Remember, we have China, we have Turkey, we have Pakistan, we have a lot of other nations also. And India is not going to be the same after this, and neither will be Pakistan in the shape and size that it exists now.
Thank you for sharing that insight. And I think it was from a purely military perspective. And we're glad to hear that. Now, let us explore another angle. And for that, my question would be to Dr. Ehlawat. With regards to radicalization trends in J&K, according to you, what do you think are the primary drivers of the process? And how do you think can intelligence agencies they can work to mitigate the spread of extremist ideologies amongst the youth in the Kashmir Valley? Would really like to hear from you.
Okay, that's good. Yeah, see, there are historical antecedents to the radicalization process in Jammu and Kashmir that I can look from two perspectives. One is the homegrown. Homegrown is mainly because of in the past, some electoral management and other outcomes where the youth felt isolated or got alienated in the political process, mainly because there were two or three families. They dominated the political scenario, and there were lesser opportunities for the youth to be part of the political spectrum. Then comes the external perspective, that when the Soviet Union intervened in Afghanistan and Pakistan became a front agency to confront them, so it started radicalizing its youth as mujahideen that fight a religious war against the Soviet Union when it was getting aid and trade from other places. So after 10 years, the Soviet Union moves out, but there is a big chunk of the fighters, mujahideens, and they are battle hardened, trained, and they are happy to spare their life for the cause of the religion. So these Mujahideens were channelized in Kashmir. And once they come on the single ticket, they are not looking to go back. Return ticket is not there. So they want to either play their major role or die. So they are so hardcore. So once they cross the border into Jammu and Kashmir, and there are local youths who are unable to make inroads into political scenario in Jammu and Kashmir. And also there is economic sort of discontentment and unemployment. So here is the meeting of the two groups that were complementary and supplementary to the each other. So that was the basic platform that started in 1989. After that comes this next phase is the social media. In the social media context, they are connected to the world. They can read this sort of material they want. They can propagate it outside also, such as Burhan Wani was taken as the social media icon by the others. So they can now glorify their terroristic activities, such as the TFR was very loudly claimed the Pahalgam incident. So other one is that there is religious identity also is being formed because of in the Jammu and Kashmir. The people from Kashmir were rooted out on the basis of religion. So that also influenced them. So now is the third phase where the youth are looking for, have the hopes. They can get employment, they can have the other avenues there. But now there is a desperation across the border that why these youths are getting diverted. So it is again they're inflamed that they should be part of this struggle. So that's why the radicalization takes place. There are three phases in the radicalization process. Now, the next part of this question is that how the intelligence agencies can mitigate this spread of extremism. I think there are several avenues, or there can be several processes in which the intelligence agencies can work. First, I think it starts from the school. All the school-going students should be in the classroom. And when the students come to the classroom, you can make out from the student. If a student is happy, well-dressed, actively participates in educational activities, it means the family is happy family. And if some student is isolated, scared, has some bruises on the body or something else, you can make out that there are some issues in the family. This is not a well coordinated or well happy family. So from there, the process can take place. What's happening with the child or at the family level? So that can be an identification level. Then comes the aptitude. Looking at the aptitude of the youth, whether some student may be aggressive in nature, other can be in the sports, other can be in a scientific temper. So after there should be, their aptitude should be measured when they are in class 5, class 10, after they do their bachelor degree or master's degree. So there can be 4 aptitude tests for them, how they are performing, what sort of their personality is there. So making that personality profile can also make out that how the youths are going. Such as if some has aggressive nature, can be included in the police force or some other agency. Someone is in sports, can be handed out to sports academy. The third perspective can be women empowerment. If a woman is given a government job, so she wants to retain her job because there is a source of income. She would like to control her brother if wants to go in radical activities, control her husband, control her son. So a woman can play a vital role. If a woman loses job because family is getting radicalized, so it will be a shame and social stigma will be there. So women can play a vital role. In addition to that one, there can be the digital monitoring, what the youths are screening on their mobile phones, where they are moving, to whom they are in contact with. Okay, this is a civil society, they can go to any website, but some sort of indirect track can be kept that where really they are having. Then the other issues can be that there can be psychological counseling. vocational training provided to them, and there should be some sort of the space for them where they can come out. But there should be in the mainstream of the nationalistic fervor. They have the individual space plus the within the nationalistic framework they should be acting. I think some of these can be the initiatives that the intelligence agencies can take. It should be more a social one than the militaristic perspective.
That's true, sir. I think you've presented great recommendations, and definitely through this, we've explored the idea of radicalization thoroughly. Okay, so I would like to pose my next question to Dr. Priyanka Singh. Ma'am, in light of the deadly terror attack in Pahalgam, which specifically targeted tourists based upon religious identity, how do you access the evolving objectives and the tactics of the terror groups that are operating in the valley? Additionally, I also wanted to know that how do you interpret this targeting strategy in the context of militancy and extremism, which has already been stressed up upon by the previous speakers?
Thank you for that question. And I think, yes, over the years, we have seen a certain evolution of the tactics of terrorism in J&K, be it the geographical shift from the core valley to the Jammu region or the perpetrators' metrics concerning the targets. Now, in my view, what happened in Pahalgam was to achieve some kind of a heightened provocation to identify non-Muslims and kill them. And not only this, I think there were anecdotal evidence that suggested that they called out Prime Minister Modi's name and said that we won't kill you, so that you go and tell him that we did this. So, and of course, this targeting of hapless sort of tourists instead of armed security forces. So yes, there is a turn of tactic. But at the same time, I would also reiterate that it is some kind of a revival or a reflection of something that has already happened in the past, in the earliest years of the violence in J&K. And the unabated target killings of the Pandits, which forced them to flee their homeland. And more recently, there are always there have been attacks against the non-Muslim communities and the laborers who had migrated there to work in J&K. So by all this, I think the larger motive is to recreate that fear and instability and cause extreme sort of provocation to bring India to the brink of war.
Definitely, ma'am. I think this is a pressing issue and it should be catered to by the forces or by even the local population at large. Now, my next question will be directed to Dr. Bhattacharjee. Sir, I went through your article, which was about chartering a new narrative and redrawing history and politics in Bangladesh. And I think we should now move towards the geopolitical lens about this issue. So, in that article, you've talked of renewed diplomatic engagement between Pakistan and Bangladesh. So, how do you think such shifts can create new alliances that can embolden terror networks which are operating in the valley? So, if you could just highlight upon that.
Surely. The thing is, with the change of government in Bangladesh and with the removal of Sheikh Hasina government and the interim government coming in, we have seen the significant or the steady rise of Islamic radicalism and Islamic radical groups within Bangladesh. And we also have seen a relationship which was practically in the cold storage, which was not maintained properly or which was not nurtured properly, especially during the Awami League regimes, were brought back, especially between the Pakistan civilian government as well as the Pakistan military or the military establishment, along with the interim government in Bangladesh. What we have seen that during this past 1 year in Bangladesh, there has been radical elements, which is part of the interim government, who have been making very extremist kind of statements with regard to our India's northeast as well as India's other territories, which is not not appreciated, totally unacceptable for India. And especially after the Pahalgam attack, there were statements made by former military generals, Bangladeshi military generals, that if India might attack Pakistan in retaliation to the terrorist attack, Bangladesh should also take over the northeastern states of India. So, which shows that the radical nature. That naturally, this is more of radical statements that have been emanating from the radical Islamic groups in Bangladesh and is not a basic imminent threat for India's territorial integrity and sovereignty in the Northeast. But sir, and it is not a statement that has been issued by the Indian government, but has been given by a former army general. But certainly, it makes the nature in which a free hand has been given to the Islamic radical groups and elements that has been working in Bangladesh for the last 7 to 8 months is worrisome. And the bonhomie that is taking place between the two military establishments between Pakistan and Bangladesh is also worrisome. And one needs to keep a very close watch, like how these alliances can practically embolden, because it is especially during the installed government, especially during the regime, we have kept a very strong focus on the India-Bangladesh borders, which is around more than 4,000 kilometers. So, though the borders remain porous, but and there has been continuous free flow of illegal immigrants, but naturally there has been a check. So, such radical elements entering India or getting access to Kashmiri militant groups is something which we have to keep a very close watch on. But naturally, for India, the closeness with Pakistan and Bangladesh and the strengthening of Islamic radical groups and elements within the interim government of Bangladesh, as well as those who are present in Bangladeshi society, remains to be a cause of significant worry for India.
Definitely, sir. I think after hearing your answer, I would really like to quote one of the statement wherein you said that one cannot keep the neighbors out of sight. And I think that was an interesting take. Now, drawing upon that, I would now pose my next question to Dr. Wahid. So I went through your research into the Kashmir's history of identity and the external influences on the region. So, how do you think the attack in Pahalgam that was directed towards non-local tourists, how does it highlight the ongoing risk of demographic anxiety and also, sadly, the communal polarization in the valley amid the renewed India-Pakistan tensions? So, if you could just give a holistic understanding of the same.
So therefore, if you want me to move on to sort of, the communal polarization in the valley, I don't know really what you speak of, because there is no communal polarization in the valley. And in fact, even all the channels, or not all the channels, but quite a few, at least, I mean, I don't watch that much on the news, but there were several where there were Kashmiri Pandits who were still living here, who were saying that, who were acknowledging that they did not feel that there was any communal feeling. So within Kashmir, I don't think there has been any. I'm happy to be proven wrong. I mean, I'm not happy to be proven wrong, but if there's evidence to the contrary, I'm happy to look at it and respond accordingly. But thus far, I think, and as you may have sort of seen, Kashmiris in the entire valley had a massive shutdown, protesting the violence that had been perpetrated, denying that it had anything to do with the ethos of Kashmir.
Sure, sir. Thanks for that. I think it brings in a different dimension here. And we will move forward to another question, which I'll pose for Dr. Ehlawat. Amidst the development of the high-tech weaponry we have seen around the world, like drones, but we see that the terrorists have employed a low-tech and rather an unconventional method of warfare, like the modus operandi by Hamas on October 7, 2023. So, how should the security forces adapt their strategies to effectively counter this different form of warfare, or we can say asymmetric warfare? If you could just stress on that.
Yes, certainly. See here, as Dr. Pathak started with that, always the military is looking for the kinetic action. And in kinetic action comes the higher range or higher grade weapon system. But now with the Hamas being sort of cooperating or coordinating with the Lashkar-e-Taiba, that their presence was felt in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir, it appears there is a more probability of using the low-grade weapon system. And also this was in the Israel on the 7th of October. So from that, there can be several lessons can be deducted. One is that India's border with Pakistan can be looked from 2 points of view. One is the international border that's quite stable, and I don't think that either of the country will be disturbing that international border. So conflicting border is the line of control, LOC. So LOC is being very difficult terrain. There it is will not be possible for the number of people at the one time crossing the border because of the tough terrain. And also at the same time, and though there are several ways to enter in India, because there are closer to the Diamar Bhasha Dam, there are deep tunnels. Perhaps from there they can make entry. India has to be extremely careful in that region. But it is unlikely that hundreds of people will come across the border at one time. Second thing is that there are several other perspectives that the LOC is some 740 kilometers long. So that is comparatively looking at the strength of Indian military that can be under control or check, though there is no guarantee that it will be 100% under the control. But over the decades, India has come out with some advanced technologies. So for that, it has to make a balance between the high technology and low end technology. For that one, first thing comes that there need to be physical barriers. These physical barriers should be supported with the electronic surveillance and also fortified fencing and underground sensors and mobile patrols. So there can be, currently I think there is a 3-layer approach that can be added to the 5-layer approach. With that one, coming to the low technology, India now has reached to a point that it will not cross the border. So it was having the deterrence by denial, that people are coming, they are crossing into India, India is denying their entry. But the current government has upped the ante by deterrence by punishment. So that there comes the point that the entry points where the entry is there. So that should be checked. So the LOC since 2021, there has been a ceasefire agreement there. But that cannot be in this way if the ongoing terroristic attacks are there. So that leads towards a protracted warfare. Protracted warfare is that let increase the cost for Pakistani forces. And if that be so, the deterrence can be managed, but there will be cost. And India is in a situation that it can bear the cost, but Pakistan is currently passing through serious financial crisis. There is a moment in Balochistan Liberation Army is there that is posing the writ of the state there. Then in the FATA region, the Pashtuns are in Afghanistan and Pakistan, but Pakistan wants a Durand line there. They are resisting that. And since then, the Tehrik-e-Taliban Pakistan TTP has been waging wars against the state. Even in some of the territories are there that the Pakistan military cannot enter there. So Pakistan's border with Iran is unstable, with Afghanistan is unstable, with India is unstable. So there comes can Pakistan afford the three unstable borders? So that if India goes with the deterrence by punishment, that will further put the stress on the financial component of the country. Then comes that what India can do, that India has to improve its own security also. That can be done through the tactical readiness. It means there can be static defenses, and also this can be backed by the agile, decentralized, and highly trained quick reaction teams. India's major weakness is now in the forest region. They perpetrate an attack, terroristic attack, and disappear in the forests. So there is need for combing operations in the forest. They have to map the forest. Big task, uphill task, but still there are tunnels. So there can be sensors can be put there. And in addition to the sensors, there are other mechanisms that there can be direct reflection. There can be several mechanisms then that they can measure the momentum of the people. So that they have put at some places. But still this needs to be refined, because sometimes it is difficult to identify whether that place is being crossed by the animals or by the human beings. So there needs to be more precision in that case. Also, there can be the biggest challenge comes from the overground worker. The overground workers take them from one place to the other, and then they put them in a comfortable position or a safe house, and they become active when there is a need for that. So there needs to be penetration in the overground worker network. Also, in addition to, India has developed its NAVIC, satellite navigation system. So India should further put these satellites more closer, so that once someone crosses the LOC, then the other navigation system does not work. It comes within the framework of the NAVIC. And with NAVIC, if satellite communication is there, then Indian forces intelligence can identify exact location of who is where. And with that specific knowledge, India can introduce swarm of drones, that the number of drones are there over. So that can put a big pressure. It can use precise guided missiles, UAVs, and these can be through the remote war strategy to counter these threats. And in addition to that, India also has to work on this cyber technology, because who are the overground workers, they are in contact with the intruders. And then what the communication needs to be captured and then put into real intelligence network at the right unified command center. One more point I would like to add here is that India need to do some real simulation exercises, because now these are done in the rooms, war room or the strategic rooms, but these should be done in the ground realities. And through that one, they can have different scenarios, because when the Indian forces are now moving in the territories that are uncharted, there are coordinated IED strikes, cyber and physical hybrid attacks on the Indian systems. So perhaps there is need that the India has developed the kinetic forces, but at the same time they need to address the low level intensity frameworks that are being used. And these can be done because through the human intelligence, signal intelligence, through the drone feeds, cyber intelligence, and swift and informed responses. I think so.
Surely, sir. I think after listening to your answer, my biggest takeaway is that how critical it is to balance between high as well as low tech developments. So I think you've touched on something really important. Now, moving forward, I would like to pose my next question to Dr. Priyanka. Ma'am, given your profound research on India-US relations, how do you interpret the reoccurrence of major terror attacks in Kashmir, such as the recent Pahalgam incident, coinciding with the visits by US leaders to India? And how do you think what strategic objectives might such attacks serve for the perpetrators if we understand in the context of the evolving geopolitical dynamics?
So I'll answer that very briefly. It is true that some major terrorist attacks have, and pertaining J&K, they have taken place during high-profile US visits to India, and especially those where Pakistan is found to be directly involved. Now, in such cases, what happens is that the optics quotient of these visits, be it Bill Clinton when he visited India, that was after a gap of 22 years that a US president was visiting India, or JD Vance's visit and his India connection. So in all these cases, I think the optics were very high. In that sense, I think if the objective of the attack was to kind of get some kind of a measly strategic objective, it could be to kind of really destroy that optical frame. Obviously, if there is so much of bloodshed, that will hijack every other thing and every other news. So Pakistan, yes, of course, if it gains strategically from doing so, so be it. But the reality is that Pakistan has never kind of reconciled with the growing proximity between India and the United States, which has been its age-old ally. So that is one fact which we really need to factor in. However, at the same time, I would also like to add that we must avoid getting into such comparatives and the equivalences that probably I think that will probably lead to some kind of rationalization of these heinous attacks that have been kind of really fostered on India. Because and saying that this happened because so and so was on a visit to India. This is also because such an approach will then turn the discussion on the probability and the preparedness on India's part. If it was that predictable, then why weren't we preemptively prepared for such attacks? That is one thing. So I think for us, the more relevant part to focus on is the fact that Pakistani state-sponsored terrorism against India is a perennial problem. That has been our position of strength, and that must remain our position of strength. And I think by kind of really drawing these sorts of comparatives and some kind of, some kind of instances from history, we will really, what we will do is to cage our case. That this happened because somebody said this, because somebody said that, and somebody was on a visit to India and somebody was. So I think we should avoid that. Thank you.
That is great, ma'am. I think this is indeed a powerful take, and this is something that we will look forward to and would like to delve more into it. But for now, I would pose my next question to Dr. Pathak. Sir, considering that there has been a war of narratives in the Kashmir Valley amidst the terror attacks, what methodology do you think India can adopt to counter and maybe to build resilience against this information warfare in Kashmir in order to foster security as well as peace in the region? Some takeaways for that, please.
We have come to a situation in information warfare conflict spectrum where the military option window appears to be opening. That's one. Before that, let me just clarify some of the things that have been spoken about military action. LOC 740 kilometers and we should not do this and that, etc. The military goals are not decided like that. The cause or the root cause of all this trouble is not radicalization, it is not the Pakistani people, it is not Kashmir, it is the Pakistani army. And that Pakistani army, which is generally in this area of Lahore, Sargodha, Peshawar, Kohat, etc. So let's be very clear about it. Then there was a mention made that if we cross the IB, then prolonged protracted warfare, etc. Not necessarily. Just because it has happened in Ukraine, it will happen in India also. It is not. There is no causal relationship in this. Israel did what it did within 6 days. India did what it did in Bangladesh in 13 days flat, created the new nation. So if we think that if we cross the IB, then it will be very, very long warfare. Let's get out of that fear. I'm not saying that we're going to cross IB. I'm just saying that military options are not decided like that. Thirdly, there is very little. There is no distinction between high tech and low tech. Any technology which is utilized for the forces for a particular task is technology. It should be useful in that particular scenario. Countries don't fight on drones itself. Drones are used in conjunction with others. Countries don't fight with air force only. They have the ground forces also. The second book which I wrote on theater command, unified theater command, breaking free of military silo, when a nation as a whole fights, then all these drone, high, low technology, crossing the LAC, crossing the LOC or IB, which part to use, where, in conjunction, etc., all is taken care of in one equation. It is not a simple equation of x 4x is equal to 8, so x is equal to 2. It is a more complex equation which they have to solve. The military forces continue doing simulation exercises. They don't, of course, publicize it for obvious reason. I've been in the military for 30 years. I know what kind of simulations are done. Every exercise is against a particular situation that is being done. Then there was a talk about economy and combing operation, etc. Look, I've been through a lot of combing operations in Nagaland, in Punjab, in Manipur, etc. Combing operations are very, very tiring. These are battle of attrition, and no military would like to continue doing it. And we do not fight as per the narrative set to us by the opposite forces. We fight as per our convenience, our narrative. I'll give you a very small example. 1948, when India and Pakistan went to war, 47, October 1947, we had preponderant of forces which were suitable for planes. Lahore, Sargodha, Kohat, Peshawar, Sindh. We had armored divisions. We had 6-time superior air force, etc. That is the terrain we should have gone in. But instead, we fell into the enemy's trap, fighting in the mountains where tanks, cannot be used that effectively. Even we didn't use our air force. So we should have gone in for that. So the rest of the wars would not have been there. Had we fought our 1947-48 war well, there wouldn't have been another war. There wouldn't have been even 62, 65. So the aim of the military is to fight an operation in the smallest window of time in such a manner that after that particular war is over, that conflict is terminated. For next 50 years, 600 years, there's no other war. In 71, we had that opportunity. The Indian military gave that to the nation. We somehow frittered it away. Now we are at the cusp of history where economically, internationally, and militarily, we are in a situation. I'm not saying that we should go military all out. We are in a situation to adopt option as it suits us, not as it suits the adversary. Do jungle bashing, do combing operation, do drones, etc. We have everything. We can use anything anywhere we want to, and we should calibrate the escalator ladder in the information warfare conflict spectrum, and we should not allow the enemy or somebody else to decide for us. The Indian military is highly professional, technologically highly advanced, and if they are given a very clear-cut mandate that this is what you have to do, and then they are given a free hand and resources, they are quite capable of doing it. Now, coming to a specific question of information warfare, we should set the agenda of our military or geopolitical goal. National vision, we should not compromise. 2047, India needs to be a developed nation, 30 trillion economy, and $18,000 or $18,000 per capita, I think, GDP, that we need to achieve. If this is the irritant coming in between, remove this irritant once forever, internally and externally, in the best possible way, which suits our resources. And from here on, as I said right in the beginning, we set an agenda that we as Indian can tolerate up to this much, not beyond that, because the punishments are going to be so heavy that you may disintegrate. You may not ever, for example, Bangladesh is saying that we will do this and that to North. It is a joke actually. Where are they? They stand nowhere to do. 7 states of Northeast Bangladesh take over, and we're discussing that. They have no capability. They are staying for their own audience, etc. And if something has to be done, we have a lot of other means other than the military. Even violent means we have to settle these kind of things. So our response to anything which threatens our national security should be fast and furious. Under the overall geopolitical setting, we tell ourselves that, look, by this much of time, we want to be counted in the Committee of Nations in international pecking order. We want to be a developed nation. We want to look out our citizens. If anybody disturbs it, there'll be very heavy hand. Lastly, I would say, when we talk of national security, there are three major aspects. The first is the value system. What are our value systems? The scriptures that we have. We are not the non-violent type. We are non-violent till such time our peace is disturbed. And after that, we are very, very violent. That has been proved in our scriptures. The value system. Second, the citizen, the well-being of the citizen. Now, Pahalgam, 28 people were killed, and they said religious killing, communal killing. Was it the first time? It has been happening. We should have reacted much earlier. We are reacting now. That's very, very good. So citizen is the core of national security. If a citizen is disturbed economically or by terrorist threat, or even, let's say, in other countries, our citizen suffers from some problem, our governments react, and rightly so. So citizen is the core of the national security. And third is the geography. These lines keep on changing. If somebody is threatening us and we find that the existence of that nation is a threat to us, uh, then that nation doesn't exist in the form and the shape as it exists today. So that we should be very clear, and we should make this particular thing very, very obvious to the adversary also, which probably we have not done earlier for whatever reason. I'm not getting political here, but this is the time we should set the agenda ourselves. We are very close to America, so what? Pakistan was very close to America and Bangladesh war. What happened? Israel was not close to anybody in 1956 when they fought the Egyptian. They defeated. So closeness, etc., is good. You create that national thing, etc. I mean, international atmosphere in your favor. But if that doesn't happen, don't compromise in your national goals. And I'm happy that this time we're setting a very good national goal, military as well as non-military action. So information warfare, we are at a cusp where we should set our overall goal in the context of national security today, and we can do it.
Thank you, sir, indeed, for shedding light on this very thought-provoking idea. And I think it also becomes highly insightful considering that we've had an experience in military. Moving forward, my question would be to Dr. Bhattacharjee. How do you think that shifting alliances and the cross-border terror networks complicate India's counter-terrorism efforts in Kashmir? And at last, let's have a holistic understanding from you. What do you think can be the diplomatic or policy approaches that can address these multifaceted threats more directly?
Now, what I can say is India, for terrorism, for India, this is something not new. And terrorist groups have made alliances, forged new alliances, broken alliances, uh, uh, given new names to it, have made new fronts. But we have to uh, we have that amount of confidence on our security forces that whatever the alliances have been made, such alliances really did not make significant amount of mark, and all such alliances really were not able to make any dent on our image or character or our security architecture. Yes, there have been the failures in intelligence, and because there have been a constant effort, like if we basically say, like in cross-border terrorism, the use of tunnels and the presence of Hamas in Pakistan occupied Kashmir very recently, the use of Hamas in terrorist network in making tunnels, was that technology used, is a question that can be raised. But so such terrorist networks or alliances might be there. But did that make such alliances or networks create any dent in our security infrastructure? I would no, because we have significant our security forces, our military, and our defense forces have the capacity and have shown significant prowess with regard to, because it's a 1.4 billion population country with such a geographical territory, large geographical territory, and around most of the time, not most of the time, like around 100% of the times, it has been kept safe. So we should not be perturbed by such alliance networks or terrorist groups, like forging alliances or creating networks within the region, like especially like networks working in Pakistan or Bangladesh, or networks working or supported by China or supported by terrorist groups working in West Asia. They have been working together. There have been support structures, but they have not been able to make any roadway into any territory or any security systems within the country. And for that reason, we have to have a significant amount of confidence in our defense forces who have kept India safe for the last more than 7 decades. And with regard to how diplomacy or policy approaches can be made, as Dr. Pathak has been rightly pointing out, like in the present incident we have seen, especially here the government from the very beginning has given a free hand to our three armed services with regard to what sort of military, because they will be the best to basically decide what sort of a military response should be there, if there should be any. They should be the one to decide. But in diplomatic parlance, we can say, like the biggest trump card, which will be the suspension of the Indo-Pak Treaty, which has not been the case, a treaty which has been extremely biased towards Pakistan, and it was never touched, even in 60, 65, it was never touched in 71, 99, in all the terrorist attacks, 26/11, Pulwama, Uri. So that was always kept away, and a concept of self-confidence had grown within the Pakistan military establishment, that whatever comes, India will not touch the Indus-Water Treaty. But this time, the government has shown, as Dr. Pathak was saying, come what may, this is it, no more and no further. So if we they have just, if you can go through Dawn today, they're one of the main news media. They have been trying hoarsely with regard to the decreasing water in China, and how much water, the Kharif crop, sowing of Kharif crops, which remains to be a principal concern. They are practically have taken this issue up also as a non-permanent member to the UN Security Council. For that reason, diplomatically, we have started taking approaches. We have to basically, as Mrs. Gandhi had done during 1971, when she got 6 months time period to basically spread out the word of what Bangladesh or what India faced with regard to the East Pakistan War or Civil Liberation War. Similarly, we have our External Affairs Minister, as well as our diplomatic people in the ministry, have taken a very strong response with regard to informing the international stakeholders with regard to what is our stand. There is no need of mediation. India is capable enough to take care of itself, and whatever is required to basically stop this menace of terrorism, India will not hesitate to take it, and that has been the stand today, and that has been the policy today. And as our fellow panelists were saying with regard to China, see, whatever, there will be nations who will be using technique high or low, but that doesn't mean India does not have the capacity to check it. And India will have, there will be stakeholders who will be inimical to India's interests, but that should not worry us at all, because but I can tell you that this has been the case with the depleting number of terrorist attacks in Kashmir. There have been a constant efforts have been made by the Pakistan military establishment to disturb because it is presently what is happening in Pakistan. Carrying out a Pahalgam was one of, I think, an approach to divert the Pakistani masses' attention from what is going on in Balochistan, Gilgit-Baltistan, and Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, because that is, and what is going on, the economic trouble and the political trouble that is going on in Pakistani domestic politics. The entire Pakistani focus has now gone into the fear psychosis that India is going to attack. So now and they have again got the press freedom of totally turning off their social media network. That is something which Pakistan military establishment has been doing for long, and they have been doing it again, and they will be doing it further. So we should not be worried about what Pakistan is doing. Rather, we should be having full confidence in our security forces, and should be, as our present government has done, give them the free hand of carrying out or decide what should be done militarily. Thank you.
Surely, sir, I think that was a fresh perspective and you've successfully summed it all up. Something which all of us can agree at the end of this panel discussion is that we're capable, we're stronger, and we're more strategic now. We've covered a range of pressing issues, so I would just want that we carry forward the sense of urgency and responsibility that we've explored today. Whether in policy making, law enforcement, civil society, or academia, I think all of us have a role to play in fortifying our national resilience, for which we vouched for throughout the discussion. Additionally, thank you so much for your valuable insights. And I would also like to thank our audience for joining in and watching this. Thank you, everyone. Jai Hind.